but that's just the way that golf is. It's a tough game. And if you can take it one shot at a time, that's what I really learned about myself taking the PAT and tournament golf is understand like what is honestly the outcome if I don't play well today. Welcome everybody into another episode of the Fairways to Fortune podcast, where we talk about how people have used golf to find success in business and in life. I'm your host, Joe Canfield, and founder and CEO of Fairways Relationship Management. Today's a special episode. It's just me as the guest today. So when I started this podcast, the goal was to meet cool people and tell their stories, because I truly believe that's the best way to learn in life, is to talk to other people and to listen to their stories and learn from their experiences. Everybody's got a unique perspective on life, and everybody's got a unique story of how they got into golf, and people are using it for different things. And I think that it's super interesting to learn those things for myself. I've obviously been ingrained in the game for a very, very long time. And so listening to people's stories who are just getting into it or have a completely different experience than I have has been fascinating to me. And I feel like that's more fascinating to people than me talking about myself. But we're 7 episodes in now, and we figure it's probably time to do a little meet the host and talk about why I'm doing what I'm doing. And timing couldn't be better. Many of you know, and I've mentioned a few times on the podcast, that I am pursuing membership with the PGA of America to be a golf professional, not a professional golfer. And I'll get into the nuance and difference there in a little bit. But I have gone through one of the major milestones of that, which is the PGA's playing ability test. And we're going to get into the details on that and why that's such an important step, and talking through kind of what that means and the challenge that is. Many people consider that to be the most difficult part of gaining membership with the PGA of America. Obviously, I don't know. I haven't done it yet, but I've taken the test and done what most people I have talked to have said this is the most difficult thing that you're going to face trying to gain membership with the PGA of America. So I'm going to jump into it here. And if I fumble over myself, excuse me. I really enjoy talking to other people, and I do much better one-on-one with people, or having a few guests here to bounce questions off of and just kind of see where the conversation goes. So we're going to do our best here. And honestly, I don't love talking about myself, but I feel like it's important for you all to know why I'm doing this, why the podcast exists, and some of the things that I'm trying to accomplish in my own life, and how I can help you as a listener as well. So thanks for being here as a listener. Honestly, some of the craziest things have happened just from starting this podcast. I've interviewed some really cool people. I would have never guessed that I'd have guests already from across the country. We had Zach Williams with Drive Force on here. He's out in Massachusetts. We had Zoe Bogan on here, which I totally fumbled her name at the first, and I feel horrible about that. But Zoe was a great guest, and she's doing some incredible things in golf. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly suggest you go back and learn a little bit about how she's breaking down barriers to get people into golf, because her story is actually really incredible. And then just last week, we had Tammy McQueen, who's out in Atlanta, and is probably one of the most random connections and random things that's ever happened to me in my life. I mean, I've had some random things happen, and I've done a lot of really random things, as I get to know people more and more, and they get to know me, I some stuff comes out about things that I've done, and all good, obviously. I mean, everybody's done stupid things in their life, and they'll learn about those things too. But that is one of the most random connections. A viral Instagram reel is definitely not something that I had on my life bingo card, but the episode with Tammy was awesome. Her story is fantastic. Just the story of how her and I got connected is worth going back and listening to that one as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't just give a huge thank you to the Wedge golf guys, Dane, Caden, and Tanner, who have all been on the show. We did Caden and Tanner together as brothers, because I think that the story of them working together as brothers and family, and in golf, which is what many would consider more of a passion than an actual profession, is a super cool story, and just kind of goes to show that you can actually make a living doing what you love and working with people that you like. So really thank you to them for kind of pushing me into actually starting the podcast, because it's always been something that's been in the back of my mind. I've never really thought too much about it or jumped into it, and they've kind of pushed me into it, helped me find the recording studio, have helped me find a few guests, which we'll have a couple episodes coming up here that I'm really excited about, with awesome guests. And one of the people that I'll talk about today that helped me a little bit through the playing ability test will be a future guest as well, and I'm super excited for that episode. So ending with a big thank you to Wedge Golf and having us be part of the Wedge Podcast Network, along with their podcast, The Wedgies. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, you should. Those guys are super knowledgeable about golf and the golf business world and what's happening there as far as product and marketing and all the crazy stuff that's happening in golf, with new leagues popping up, the Olympics going on right now. Their podcast is worth the listen. So with that, I'm going to jump into kind of what I do with hosts and give you my background in golf and tell you how I kind of got into the sport. And then we'll jump into why I'm pursuing PGA membership, the steps to get that, what that actually means. And then I'm going to detail my experience with the playing ability test. So I'm excited about it. So I've been playing golf for it's like 27 years now. And I started playing when I was 7 years old. I can remember the day. I mean, I had gone out and hit balls with my dad and gone to the range and probably played a couple 9-hole rounds and stuff. But I can remember the day that I remember falling in love with golf was I was 7 or 8 years old. Nike used to do these camps where they would send an instructor out, and during the week, all of the kids would go. So Monday through Thursday, the kids would go out and they would do a lesson in the morning. So they're working with an instructor in the morning. You'd do range sessions, putting sessions, chipping sessions, short game, long game, everything. And then you'd eat lunch. And then in the afternoon, you'd go play 18 holes. And so the kids are doing this I may be getting this wrong, but it was every Monday through Thursday. It might've been every Tuesday through Thursday. And Monday was kind of a reset day for the coaches and the camp directors and everything. But the weekend, the parents would come back to town. And so Friday, Saturday, the parents would join the kids for that same format. So it would be lessons in the morning and have lunch and then go play 18 holes in the afternoon. Well, my dad was friends with one of the camp directors. And so whenever they had open spots, he would invite my older brothers to go play. Obviously, a 7-year-old playing that much golf in a week is probably too much to ask. I've got 2 older brothers that are 4 and 6 years older than I am. And so they would go during the week. And then I remember begging my dad and saying, hey, I want to go to golf camp. I want to go to golf camp. I need to go to golf camp. And he finally gave in and said, look, I'll bring you on the weekend. You can come do the father and son portion of it with us. And I remember walking up to, it was the old practice green at the homestead. It's now a giant swimming pool. They've redone that property up there in Midway. And honestly, beautiful facility. They're going to be redoing the golf course there, and they've redone the hotel and everything. But they used to have one of the most beautiful practice facilities in the entire state of Utah. And I remember walking up to the putting green. I was carrying a purple golf bag. I actually just pulled that golf bag out of my parents' attic. They still have it. And I had these golf clubs there called the Sassy Lady golf clubs. And they were women's golf clubs, and they had the most flexible shafts you've ever seen. It was the Noodle golf club. I was actually playing the other day and with a friend that would do these camps with us, and he brought up, you remember the Noodle shaft driver that you used to have? And I said, yeah, I do remember that actually. I remember walking up, doing this camp, and there I met a gentleman named Howard Vroon. Howard has become a lifelong friend. And he's been teaching me how to play golf since that day, 26 years ago now. So we did those Nike camps, made lots of friends, made friends with a lot of the parents that would come, and probably did those for 7 or 8 years and made lots of really close friends, family friends. And then Nike kind of quit doing them. They got out of that business. They weren't running the camps anymore. And we had become really good friends with Howard at this point. And so after like 2 years of not doing it, we were kind of sitting down having a conversation with the friends that we had made during that and said, how great would it be if we could just bring Howard out and do a camp? Like, let's see if they'll do that. And so we reached out to Howard, and he would spend like 6 to 8 weeks in the summer out here. He wasn't married, didn't have children. He was a college golf coach out in South Carolina. He was at the Charleston Southern University, and ended up at the College of Charleston, and actually still coaches a D2 school out there that we still go out and see and actually play in his fundraising event every year. But we reached out to Howard and said, hey, Howard, we know Nike isn't organizing these anymore, but we have a whole bunch of people that would love to still do at least the weekend portion of it. And we talked him into coming out. And he said, sure, I'll come out. And we actually talked him into doing the Tuesday through Thursday portion of it. And after it was me and probably, I don't know, we probably had 11 other kids, and we all jammed into the Holiday Inn in Heber, Utah, which is just a few minutes down the road from Soldier Hollow that had just opened. It was a fairly new course at the time. And I can remember some of the stories and getting back to, getting to know people and the layers that come out, like the stories that came out of just that week. I think I was 14 when he came back out, and my brothers were older and driving, and some of the things that we put Howard through that weekend, because our parents had entrusted us to him. Right. And so he was in charge of all these kids in Heber and trying to teach us golf and trying to teach us how to be people all at the same time. And what we put him through that first week, I'm surprised he actually went through the weekend and then continued to come out after that. This year has actually been the first year we haven't done the camp in 15, almost 16 years now. And it's been a lot of the same people, friends and family, every year. First weekend of August, we all get together at Soldier Hollow. We do lessons in the morning, we eat lunch together, and then we go play 18 holes in the afternoon. And if you know anybody who's been to these camps, you know that they'll describe it as, the best weekend of the year, which I have to agree with. It's so much fun. You're just out there with friends all day long on the golf course. Every year somebody gets a crazy bad sunburn and we get to make fun of them for it. They forget to put their sunscreen on, and so they end up, lobster red like I am today. Your screen's fine. I took the kids to the swimming pool today and got a bit of a sunburn. But that is really kind of the story of how I got into golf and why I'm so passionate about helping people build relationships through the game, because a lot of my really, really close relationships have come from those experiences with the Nike camps, through Howard. Like he's, got married, had 2 kids. Obviously I've been married, had 3 kids, and we've been able to share that with each other our whole lives. Right. And we've been able to support each other with that. And the funny thing is he's got 20 years on me, and, he's got kids that are a little bit older than mine. And so I get to learn about how to be a parent from him. And over the years, having conversations with Howard, I've really gotten to know kind of his philosophy on life. And we've been out to South Carolina a few times. One of my really good friends, Steven Forsberg, who would go through these, we grew up together. Our dads were friends. We'd go play Wasatch State Park. We'd played a ton of golf together. But one year, Steven and I went out to South Carolina to play golf with Howard. And so we would still do the same thing. We'd go do the lessons in the morning with him. He'd help us out with our swings. we'd sit down, eat a little bit, and then we'd go play 18 holes. And then the great experience would come from when we would sit down at dinner with him and his family. And that year, Howard kind of really went through with Steven and I. We were both in college at the time. We were probably, I don't know, 19, 20 at the time. And he sat down and told us, here's what I look for when I'm recruiting college golfers. And this is what I expect from my team and from the kids that play golf for me. Steven and I remember having the conversation with him going, I don't know if we could play golf for Howard. Like, he's pretty streamlined. Like, he's pretty hard. He's pretty, he's pretty tough on these kids, and he expects a lot. Which is great. But as I've gotten older, I've realized, like, hey, Howard's teaching kids how to become people and not necessarily professional golfers. He's had some players go on to play pro, but he understands that, look, you need to be a person first before you're a golfer. And being able to have that mentorship has been really incredible in my life. And it all goes back to being 7 years old, walking up to the homestead and doing that. So that's kind of the background of how I've met my coach. I still see Howard, still talk to him on a, semi-regular basis, see him a couple times a year, which is fantastic. He's really become kind of a mentor to me. And now I get to talk to him about what do I have to expect when my son's going through golf and when he's learning how to drive and all that kind of stuff, which has been a lot of fun to have those conversations with him as I've gotten older and matured and all that stuff. So one of the questions I get asked a lot when I'm teaching or when I'm working with somebody, or they ask, did you play high school golf? Did you play college golf? And the answer is no. I didn't play high school golf. I didn't play college golf. When I was in high school, I played ice hockey and I played baseball. Those were the two things that I loved doing. I was a goalie on the hockey team, and then I was a catcher on the baseball team and moved to the outfield. And probably could have gone and played baseball in college if I had really wanted to, but I kind of got burned out on baseball and had played it my whole life growing up. And all of my friends had kind of quit playing, and I was kind of done by my senior year of high school and really focused on hockey. My uncle's a big name in the hockey world here in Utah. He would walk into a rink with Canfield on my back, and people would ask me, hey, are you Frank's kid? And I'd say, no, Frank's my uncle, but I know Frank. He's a great guy, and he knows kind of everybody here. And so I actually ended up going to Weber State University, and I played a very short stint of club hockey there. We were horrible. It was not a great situation to be in, but long story short, I never played golf really competitively. I tell the story that, I didn't play in high school because we had kids that were really, really good, which is true. We had a couple of kids that ended up going pro. The high school I went to won state, I think at least 2 of the 3 years that I was there. And so I probably wouldn't have sniffed the van, as it said, to begin with. But truth of it is, I didn't wake up for my tee time for tryouts. I missed an alarm. I ended up at tryouts. And so I didn't play high school golf, which I don't know if I would have been good enough at the time anyway. I didn't really get serious about playing golf until I was probably in my 20s. And this is when I started to play some tournament golf. I started to play in some state amateur qualifiers, started playing in some amateur tournaments, and kind of got more serious about playing golf instead of just trying to hit the ball as far as I could. And this is when I started taking the lessons we were getting at camp from Howard seriously, and really started to fall in love with the game. I started to fall in love with the competitiveness with myself. Obviously, playing team sports, that ingrained competitiveness is just inside of me for that. I love competing. I love proving to myself that I'm better than I think that I am at something, which is something that I'll get into when I start talking about the PAT. But it was, it took a while for me to take it serious. And I can remember when I was graduating from the University of Utah with my undergraduate degree, I didn't have a job right away. And I can remember telling my dad, I was living at home, and I'm sure he loved this. I said, I'm going to play golf every single day until I have a job. And he's like, well, good luck figuring out how to pay for it. I wasn't married yet, which was good. But I was starting a job. And it only took me a few weeks to find a job, so I didn't get to play that much that summer. But I can remember having that thought, like, I want to play golf every single day. But you're told that, hey, your dreams may not be a viable career path, and I believe that. I got into marketing, and I was working at a marketing agency. I was there for about, I don't know, a year or so before I realized, like, hey, this isn't what I want to do. And the way out was to go back to school. So I went to Utah State University, got an MBA there, did a 1 year MBA on campus program. So super intense, super crash course. And this is where I had the thought for Fairways. I was out playing golf with a couple of classmates, and I was actually standing on, I can remember where this was too. I mean, all these memories are tied to a very specific spot, which is crazy because my memory is horrible. I suck with names, which is something that bothers me about myself. I'd love to get better at names and remember people's names, remember their kids' names, all that kind of stuff. It's something I'm working on trying to get better at. But I remember standing on the third tee box at Birch Creek Golf Course up in Logan, Utah. And I remember turning to the guys I was playing with, and I can remember who was there. Still talk to a couple of them, which is great. 7 years later, 8 years later. And having the thought of saying to them, why do we not have a class that teaches business on the golf course? Half of it's in class talking about the relationship building aspect of it, when and how to bring up business, how to get somebody on the golf course. And then the other half of that is actually learning how to play the game, getting better yourself, and learning how to swing a golf club. We kind of laughed it off, but it stuck in the back of my mind. And then when I graduated, I went and worked at the University of Utah, and I was in business development. And one of the first things that I was asked, it wasn't one of the first things, but I was asked in the interview process, what do you like to do for fun? And I said, well, I play golf. I love playing golf. This is when I had gotten more serious about it. And I said, well, what's your handicap? And I think I was probably like a 7 or 8 at the time. Like, all right, that's great. And I remember them saying, hey, we play in a golf tournament every year. And we won it last year. And so if we hire you, we expect to go win it again. You're going to be on the team, and we want to win it. And I learned that they just brought ringers in. It wasn't actually people in the office that did it. And so I like to tell the story that golf got me my first job. But I remember going out and playing that round. It was a few months after I'd been hired. I was hired in January, and so this was in the summer. And I was playing with some pretty prominent partners of ours there. And I remember that round, I was there trying to play the best golf I could possibly play. And I didn't even have the thought about the relationship building that I should have been doing. And so I remember walking off the course that day. I didn't play well. We didn't win. And so I'm disappointed in myself. And then the next day I was kind of looking back at the way that I was acting on the golf course that day. And I was like, you know what? I just made an absolute horrible impression of myself that day. Like the way I was acting, the way that I was kind of, getting silent, getting angry, slamming clubs, all that kind of stuff. Right. And I really wish there was something that trained me on how to have those relationships with people. And I look back at all my formal education, and I look back at all these other things. And obviously this is something that you just kind of have to pick up over life, but I do believe that it's something that could be taught. And so over the next several years, and actually one of the guys that played golf with us that day, I got to know really, really well. He's a good friend. And he picked up golf later in life. He picked it up at 35 because he was getting asked to go play for business. And so I took a lot of the learnings that he gave me, and it's a lot of what I talk to guests about on this podcast, of what do you wish you would have known, or what are some things that have worked for you? And I took what my feelings were and what my experiences were after having that horrible round and creating that terrible impression of myself and combine that with his learnings from starting later in life, like getting into the game in his 30s, and he plays a ton, and I'd play in probably 4 or 5 tournaments with him every single year as one of our larger partners, and so the relationship thing mattered, and we actually got a ton done when we were out playing golf together because those conversations just happened so much easier. And so I worked with him to kind of put together the curriculum that we have on the Fairways RM side, and that I wish I would have had when I started playing golf for business. So that's kind of my background in golf, why I got here, where I am, and what I'm trying to accomplish with the podcast, with Fairways, and everything else that I'm involved with in the golf world. And that's going to lead me into why I'm pursuing membership with the PGA of America and what that means and what it entails and how we have to get there. And then we'll talk about the PAT. So being in golf world, there are the PGA members and then there's the golf people. And there's a little bit, it feels like a disconnect. And if you're trying to teach lessons, which I've been teaching for probably about 5 or 6 years now, just kind of on the side, obviously getting more and more into it, and the head instructor at the Salt Lake Golf Lounge, which is an indoor TrackMan facility, which is great. We just finished up one of our youth clinics, and I'm over there, 4 or 5 days a week teaching lessons. That's how I'm accomplishing the PGA's requirement for being employed in golf, is I'm over at Salt Lake Golf Lounge quite a bit, and teaching lessons and working with people over there. But when you're teaching, you can't just show up to a range and get paid to teach a lesson. And I learned this when I was teaching skiing. Again, another layer of mine. I was a huge skier, and I was an instructor while I was in college, and we would not allow people to come and do private lessons outside of the ski school. And there's liability reasons for that. But the other reason is the mountain resort has invested a ton of money into these people, into their instructors, and they don't want to see that business going somewhere else. And so the golf course and the golf world, there is that mentality as well. The pros of the golf course, they want their assistants teaching those lessons because that's extra money in their pockets and will keep them around longer. It's an industry where people jump around quite a bit. Always kind of grass is greener on the other side type of stuff. And so they don't want just Joe bringing people over, using their facilities, buying range balls, and using their range to teach lessons. They want that person who wants those lessons to walk into their pro shop and say, hey, I need your pro to teach me how to play golf. And so that changes when I can say, hey, I'm a member of the PGA of America. I've gone through all the coursework. I've been teaching at Salt Lake Golf Lounge for however many years, and I know what I'm doing, right? It proves to them that you're not just some guy off of Facebook Marketplace that thinks that he knows something about golf. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm pursuing the membership in the PGA of America, is to be able to build those relationships with other head pros. The PGA, the way that it is organized is they have sections. So the Utah section is one, Southern Nevada has another one, California has a few, Florida I think has 9. There's I'm going to get this number wrong, and I'm going to have to learn it for the knowledge test that I'm going to take, but I believe that there's 27 sections across America. And they provide a lot of the professional education the same way that any doctor needs to go do continuing education. The PGA of America provides that for golf professionals. So the process looks like you have to go through, and this is something I've already done, they have a qualifying level, which is a background check and then some pretty basic high-level knowledge of the rules of golf, teaching golf, the industry, the history of the PGA. And so it was probably about 8 to 12 hours worth of coursework that I went through to do that, a bunch of quizzes, things like that. Passed all of those, passed the background check, which is great. I didn't do too many sketchy things in my youth that would come out if you get to know me. At least didn't get caught for anything, which is great. It doesn't show up on a background check. So background check came back clean. You go through the qualifying level, and then the last requirement that you have to go through before you can start what is the level 1, which is the basic level of curriculum, is a playing ability test. So you have to prove that you can play golf to be a golf professional, which really makes sense, right? So to back up just a second, there's three levels. So there's level 1, 2, and 3. Once you've gone through level 3 curriculum with the PGA of America, you are what is considered a Class A member. And so that is at that point where I can say I'm Joe Canfield, PGA. So right now I am Joe Canfield, and I'm an associate of the PGA of America. I'm an associate member. So I'm not considered licensed. I'm not considered a member, a full member yet, right? So there's still all that coursework that I have to do. That's the level 1, 2, and 3 coursework. And once I get through all of that, that is when I can say I am Joe Canfield, PGA. So that brings me to the requirement that I in the intro said that most people required, the most people consider to be the most strenuous, the hardest, the most challenging piece of it, which is the playing ability test. So you have to prove you can play golf. And the way that you do that is you go out and you take a 36-hole test. So it's 2 rounds, 2 18-hole rounds, and they're played simultaneously on the same day. And you have to shoot underneath a target score. Now that target score changes based off the difficulty of the golf course, and a couple of other factors that go into that. For me, my test was taken at Meadowbrook Golf Course, which is in Taylorsville, Utah. Not a super challenging golf course. I played 1.5 practice rounds there beforehand. But the target score I had to shoot was a 153. So I had 153 strokes over 36 holes, which is a scoring average of 76.5. So I had to go shoot a 76 and then a 77, and that would have made it on the number, right? The PGA says that only about 20% of people who sign up for the test actually pass it. And one of the things that made me super anxious about this was I took the test on a Wednesday, and the Monday before I went out super early in the morning and played 9 holes as kind of a practice just to see the course again and just kind of know like, okay, where do I need to hit shots, that type of stuff. Kind of just a last minute preparation. And that day I was actually playing with somebody else who was taking the test, and he was with somebody else from his course that had passed it and had gone through it. And he told me a story about when he took the PAT. It was a different golf course, but he said one of the guys that was in his group, he was talking to him, getting to know him. He said it was his 16th time taking this test. And just for some context, there were 3 of them hosted in Utah this year. So there were 3 chances to go take this locally. There's a whole bunch of them across the country. And so if you're willing to travel, like, yeah, you can have more than 3 chances to take it during the year. You could probably take 1 a month if you needed to keep trying to pass it. But anyway, this gentleman he was playing with had taken it 16 times. And he says our target score, I think, he says a scoring average of 78 or 79. And he goes in the first round, he shoots 78. He's feeling good. He's ready to go. He gets into that second round and everything goes wrong. And he shoots like a 93. He doesn't even get close to passing the test. And so I've had this in the back of my mind, like, okay, this isn't going to be easy. And like, I'm not the greatest golfer ever. I'm probably a 5 handicap, 6 handicap. I've played with a lot of people that listen to the show, and they've seen me play, and they probably look at me like, really, like you're a good player, which which is fine. I'm usually focused on building the relationship rather than playing really good golf, to be completely honest with you. I know that sounds like an excuse, but I'm usually not trying to play my best golf when I'm out meeting new people or trying to get things done on the golf course. I'm out there to have that conversation, to build that relationship, and the golf's the secondary activity. And that's actually one of the things that I do, that I tell people when I coach them, is golf needs to be your secondary activity. So anyway, I have limited experience with tournament golf. And I've played in some state amateur qualifiers, and none of them have gone well. One of my favorite stories about playing in a state amateur qualifier was at Soldier Hollow, and I'm coming down the 18th hole, and I hit just a beautiful approach shot into the green, and I make the putt for birdie, and the score's tense just beyond the 18th green, and the scorers are looking at me like, "Oh, you probably got a pretty good score. That was a great hole you just played there." And I handed them my scorecard, and I think I had shot like 97. And they just looked at me and giggled, because they're like, and so I remember when I would describe my golf game to people back then, I would say there's shades of brilliance in my golf game. I know it's in there. I know I can bring that out. It's a matter of putting it together for 18 holes. And so I knew this going into the PAT, that, look, I got to keep it together for not just 18 holes, but 36 holes. And I need to play some really, really good golf. And so my mentality when I was out there was play simple. I need to keep the ball in play, no penalty strokes. Penalty strokes are going to kill me. I can't have any penalty strokes. And anytime I have a chance for birdie is a chance to get a stroke on the target score, right? And I don't know if anybody listening's played tournament golf, but when you stand on that first tee for teeing off for tournament, like, the nerves are real. Like, I can remember playing in a state championship hockey game, and I think I'm as anxious hitting my first tee shot in a tournament as I was stepping onto the ice for that game. Like, you feel the butterflies, you feel the adrenaline hit. Another tournament I played in, it was at the Homestead again. Of course, I've played 100 times. In the first hole, I knew I couldn't drive it through the fairway, but the adrenaline got to me, and I smashed the first tee shot all the way through the fairway. And so, like, this gets to me. I know this about myself, and I think it gets to everybody, to be completely honest with you. You have all the participants that day. There was 15 of us playing in the PAT, 15 or 16. And the people who are going out behind you are standing there on the first tee watching you tee off, as well as the rules official who's setting everything up. His name's Aaron, great guy, works for the Utah PGA section. And so I got that adrenaline, and I hit my first tee shot, and it was in play. And as soon as I put that ball in play, I knew, like, oh man, this is great. Like, I feel like that pressure's off. And, got up and down, made a par. And I remember I've been wearing this Garmin watch, and I remember looking down and checking what my heart rate was, and it was at like 150. I'm like, oh geez, I need to take a deep breath, and I need to relax, because I can't play golf this amped up. Like, normal heart rate playing golf is like 100, 110. So I remember taking some deep breaths. The second hole, I got on the tee, hit a horrible tee shot out to the right, and I'm looking, can't find it anywhere. So the hole's kind of set up. There's out of bounds down the left side. So if you go left side, penalty stroke, you're hitting 3 off of the tee. And in tournament golf, it's unlike playing with your buddies. You don't get breakfast balls. You don't get to hit a second tee shot. You don't get to say, oh crap, someone was talking my backswing, I'm going to hit another one. Like, none of that exists. Every time you swing the club, you need to count it. Every time you hit the ball, you need to count it. There's no raking back putts, hitting them again. You have to hole everything out, right? And so a lot of people, they'll say, oh yeah, I shoot 75, 76. But in reality, they probably gave themselves 4 or 5 strokes during that round, between maybe missing a 3-foot putt or picking one up that your buddy says is good. And so trying to hole everything out, like, just add 5 or 6 strokes to what you normally shoot. And then don't count the breakfast balls, don't count the extra drops, out of bounds, you're re-teeing, all that kind of stuff. Like, you've got to follow all the rules to a tee. And so on the second hole, I hit it out right. I'm like, crap, I'm going to have to take a penalty stroke here. And I knew I needed to shoot 76. And that is kind of when I played a practice round out there that I think I shot exactly 76. And so I'm looking for the ball. I can't find it. I'm going, what the crap? Like this is horrible. I'm headed back to the tee to hit another tee shot because that's what I got to do. I'm hitting 3 off of the tee again. Long par 5. I got the world's luckiest bounce, and it was sitting in the middle of the fairway. And I had a shot and got on the green in 2 and birdied the hole. And as soon as I walked off the second green, I was like, yes, today is my day. Like, I'm lucky. Things are going my way. Things are going really, really well. And I finished the first round. I birdied number 17 and number 18. And I finished with a 2 under 70, which my best tournament score was last year in the Wasatch Amateur. I shot 79. That's the best I've ever played in a tournament. And so I knew like I needed to be on. And I've been playing more golf than I ever have this year, just in preparation, knowing I needed to do this. So I come in 2 under. I had 4 2s on my scorecard. I birdied 4 of the 5 par 3s, which is just unheard of. Like I don't ever do that. And so I knew, okay, I just picked up 6 strokes on what I need to shoot for this next round. So we re-round really quick, went in, grabbed a quick bite to eat. The guy I was playing with, and this is something that I think really, really helped me throughout this round, was every time I've played in a tournament, there's been somebody who's played absolutely horrendous. And it's been me a couple times. I'll admit that it's been me a couple times, but every time I've played in a state amateur qualifier, I've been paired with somebody who just is not playing well. And I really believe in the truth behind good vibes helps everybody play well. And so normally you play in a threesome. The third guy that was supposed to play with us and would have been riding in the cart with me didn't show. He didn't come. And so it was just me and one other guy playing. And the biggest difference between a normal tournament round and the PAT is you're playing with another guy who is taking the same test as you. And everybody that's on the golf course that day taking that test wants everybody to pass. And so everybody is invested in helping out. Everybody's invested in you playing the best round of golf you possibly can. It's not like a tournament where it's super competitive and I need to beat the guy that I'm playing with. I need to shoot better than he does. I need to birdie this hole. And if he pars, I need to birdie. None of that exists. Everybody's cheering each other on. You're doing everything within the rules to help each other out. There's a few rules like you can't ask for yardages, reading other people's putts. Like there's a few kind of weird nuanced rules there that I don't need to get too far into, but so I was playing with one other person, and on the second tee of our first round, we had that conversation with each other. Like, hey, we're both here to pass this. Let's do what we can with each other to help us do that. And so it was just great vibes the whole time, which just kept me loose, kept me going. And I had a few lucky bounces. So I shot 2 under 70 the first round. I knew I could go out and shoot 83 and pass the test. And the course was playing pretty easy. But I know that, like I said, like my best tournament round was 79 and I've shot 90 this year. Like I know that I have that in me, which is a horrible thought to have into my mind while I was starting that second round, because I pulled a driver left on number 1 and the whole left side of number 1 is out of bounds. And so I ended up having to hit another one off the tee. It's a provisional. And lo and behold, lucky for me, again, another just crazy lucky break. They happened to be installing a fence on the driving range that day, and they had all of the fence posts lined up on the ground, going all the way down the out of bounds line. And I had landed in play, and it rolled into one of the fence posts and bounced back, so it wasn't out of bounds. So great, I'm in play. Another lucky bounce, get up and down from my par and move on. I played just super conservative the second round, which was smart. Just played smart golf, just hit the ball and play. Don't take any penalty strokes. Make sure you're making those 4-foot putts. I actually missed 3 or 4 of them, and we saw Rory McIlroy do this at the U.S. Open. It's not an easy thing to do, to just continually make 4-foot putts. over and over again. Like you're bound to miss a few. So anyway, the second round, I ended up coming in. I birdied 18 again, which was great. Par 5, great hole. And I carded a 75. So I finished at 145 strokes and beat the 153 by 8 strokes, which was a passing score. And then, I didn't really believe the 20% of people pass the test thing. I honestly thought that the course was set up so easy that almost everybody out there should have passed it. The guy I was playing with also shot 145. He went 72, 73. And then there was one guy who was like 141. He shot 68, 72, I think was what his scores were, but he won the tournament that day. And we ended up, me and the guy I was playing with were second place. So we got that requirement out of the way. I'm now a associate with the PGA. I've put in my application, it's been accepted, and now it's time to start my level 1 coursework, which is super exciting. It's good to get that out of the way. And I learned a lot about myself that day. And I mentioned in the intro here that one of the guests that we'll have on the podcast soon, his name's Spencer Montgomery. And I met Spencer, I don't know, probably 9 months ago. It was during the winter. I brought him over to the Salt Lake Golf Lounge to meet him to talk. And I remember it's because we couldn't go play golf outside. And this is like super weird coincidence stuff. Like it's so weird when I'm looking at the way things are happening in my life right now. It's like just the right people are presenting themselves at the right times. It's kind of weird how that's happening, but I feel like really, I remember reading The Alchemist a while back. Shout out to Chase Smith and him recommending that book to me. But I remember reading that and it was more like, hey, put it out in the universe and it may happen. And I'm kind of starting to see that a little bit. It's kind of wild. But anyway, Spencer called me. I was actually driving my son to a golf camp that he was participating in. And he randomly called me, and this was probably 4 or 5 months after we first met, and said, hey, I'm starting a golf business helping golfers with the mental side of golf. He does life coaching, and he says, I feel like I'm a great life coach. I know golf. He's a scratch golfer, played a year at the Y, unbelievable player. And he says, I think I can help golfers on the mental side. And I was like, dude, this is fantastic timing because I know I'm a mental basket case when I play golf. And so the week after that, we had a call, and this was the week before I took the test. And he really kind of opened my mind up to some stuff, which was great because when I was out taking that test, I hit that bad shot on the second hole and I didn't think about it. Like he goes, look, like you need to put everything in perspective, right? You need to put it in the terms of what is really going to happen if I don't pass this test. And at the end of the day, it's like, I still have everything that I'm working on. I still have the podcast. We still have Fairways. We still have all of these other things that we're working on, including something that I'm really excited about that I'll end the episode here with. I still have all that. And I can go take that test again. And so being able to get into that mindset early on and just thinking about, hey, I just need to hit the shot that's in front of me and the score is going to take care of itself, and not getting too far ahead of myself. Like, okay, I need a birdie. I need to shoot, even par these last 6 holes. It was, no, I just need to hit this shot that's in front of me the best way that I can. And so I'm excited to try to get Spencer on the show to get his perspective on everything, because it is super interesting the way that he thinks about it. And I think it can help out a lot of people who are getting into golf, because it is a frustrating game, especially if you're just learning how to play. Like, you're not going to be good at it. And I've been playing for as long as I have, and I'm still not that good at it. I know that I can be, but I'm not going out and shooting 2 under par every single time I go play golf. Like I played at the Salt Lake Country Club the other day with Steve Forsberg, the guy who I talked about doing those camps with. And I quit keeping score on the back 9 because I was through like 6 holes on the back 9. I hadn't parred a single hole. And I just quit keeping score and just thought about having fun. And I mean, if I had probably written down a score, it would have been well into the 80s. But that's just the way that golf is. It's a tough game. And if you can take it one shot at a time, that's what I really learned about myself taking the PAT and tournament golf, is understand like what is honestly the outcome if I don't play well today. I'm not a professional golfer. I'm trying to be a golf professional, which is very different. If I was a professional golfer, okay, maybe I'd care a little bit more about what I shoot when I go out there, or try to play best every single time I'm out there. But for that tournament, it was, I need to go out and I just need to play the best golf that I know that I personally can. And that means hitting the best shot every single time and being in the right frame of mind to hit that shot. So it was an awesome experience. It was something that I loved doing because it proved to me that, and I've known this about myself for a long time, is if I work really, really hard at something, I can get good at it. I did this in junior high volleyball. I did this in hockey. I was horrible when I started both of those things, and I ended up getting really, really good at them. And now it's happening for me in golf. I've started to take it more serious. I've taken some more lessons. I'm getting more and more into it. And I went out and dominated the PAT. That first round, to get out of the way and to come in with that many strokes to go play in the second round, like that was a huge burden off my back. The relief was there. I felt it, like a big weight was lifted off. And just the way things lined up that day, getting paired with somebody who was playing good golf as well, and was a good time to be around, brought good vibes, was excited for good shots for us to hit. Really, really helped out a ton. And I can't stress that enough, that if you're out playing with people, you need to be a good time and you need to help everybody be a good time, because when you're having fun and you're not thinking about lots of stuff, you are going to play better golf. You're going to have more fun. You're going to build stronger relationships. And that is really what Fairways and our training and everything is really all about. It's about going out and creating great experiences for people, which leads me into something that we're doing that I'm really, really excited about. We're making a bit of a pivot in the business, and we are getting into helping people with their events, their golf events. This kind of started out of coincidence. I had someone reach out to me about a tournament that they needed help with sponsorships on. And my background's in sponsorships. They said, hey, you're also into golf. Can you help me do sponsorships for my golf tournament? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So I got involved with a tournament called the Varden Invitational. It's at Black Desert on November 11th. It is going to serve as Utah's Men's League Championship. We have a bunch of courses that are going to be sending 4-man teams down there, and they're all going to be competing for the best men's league in the state. And the vision is to move this into other states and to run it in several states, and then honestly eventually get to having a national championship, which I think is super exciting prospect. But this year, Black Desert, November 11th. If you play in a men's league, check with your head pro, see if they've signed up. And if you're interested in sponsoring the event, I'm your guy to talk to. But I am pivoting the business a little bit to help with people's sponsorships on their golf events, and to help them run their golf events and to create memorable experiences, because honestly, that's what golf is all about. It's about creating stories. It's about sharing something with somebody else that you're always going to have together, because we do business with people that we like. And I can't think of a better way to build a relationship and to learn if you can get along with somebody than going out and playing 18 holes with them, spending 4 hours with them, learning about what they're all about. So that's what we're up to now. You can find more about what I'm doing on LinkedIn. Just find me at Joe Canfield. Follow me. I love connecting with people, messaging with people, talking to people. You can follow the podcast here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then on YouTube as well. I hope I haven't babbled along too long and I didn't lose everybody here. Honestly, I think this may be the only one that I do by myself, because I love, like I said, talking to other people, getting their stories, learning about how they're using golf and the experiences that they have had in their lives, and how we can use those as listeners and myself to be better people ourselves. As I believe that's what life's all about. It's about helping others achieve their goals. And if you can do that, the goals that you have, you're going to be able to achieve yourself. So thank you for listening. And a huge thank you to the guests that have been on the show. I know being on a show that is gaining traction and is fairly new is something that I'm very grateful for their time, and very grateful for everybody that has helped me get to where I'm at. And I look forward to the new episodes coming out of the show in the future. I look forward to working with any and all of you on your golf game. And I will definitely be keeping people up to date on where I'm at with the PGA membership. Part of it is going to PGA's new headquarters down in Frisco, Texas. So I'll be documenting that as well. And if you're not following along on Instagram, I post a ton of tips and things and clips from the podcast there, just at Fairways RM. And you'll learn a little bit more about our story with Tammy, who was our last guest on the clip that went viral with her, and see some of the stuff that we're up to there as well. So yeah, give us a follow along on LinkedIn, Instagram. Website is fairwaysrm.com. And just reach out to me directly. I'm open. I love talking to people about golf. If you have questions, I'm always open to answer them. And so I really am grateful for all of you listening. And we will have guests back next week. I hope this was insightful, and now you have a little bit more context on the show.